The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone back to another KevCAM night class tonight. Tonight, have Tim Micah helping out with any questions that come along for you guys. Tim, are you with us?
Yep, good evening, everybody.
Perfect. And Greg Payton to make sure I get all your guys' or make sure I'm teaching you everything correctly and staying on cue.
Well, you're way outside of my wheelhouse tonight, so I'm going to be learning from you. So good evening, everybody.
Yes, definitely. Good evening. And I do see a bunch of regulars in here, so I won't bore you with the housekeeping stuff of the GoToMeeting. But with that being said, we will get right into the toolbox cycles. Well, actually, one thing, I know that you guys have seen this a lot. Definitely, if you guys do have ideas, I definitely want to get those incorporated into the night class lineup. So for those that you guys are watching, you should have my email address. And for those that are watching it on YouTube, my email address is in the description. So definitely send over your ideas so we can do some cool stuff on here. All right. So tonight, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be finishing up the toolbox cycles for tonight. Some cool features in here. I know every time I say every night class of the different parts, I say there's another one of my favorite ones in here, but there definitely is on here. And I think a lot of ones are the one that I'm going to be going over is one that is very underutilized, and we get a lot of questions about it on the frontline support. But once we get over to that, I'll tell you what it is. So first things first, we'll go ahead and open up a toolbox cycle. And this next one we are going to be doing is the flattened surface on a corner. So for this flattened surface on a corner, what we need to do is create a coordinate system just like it's showing right here. So we want our X, Y, and Z on the face right here. So if I come over here and switch this to our Mach 1 position 3, you can see that my Z axis is perpendicular to that face, and that's all we really need right there. And what it's going to do in this particular operation is it's going to machine, it's going to rough everything out of here and do a finish cut, so we're not cutting any air at this point. I tried doing this one a little bit earlier today using a pocket operation, but we end up cutting a lot of air, where this toolbox cycle is set up so we're not cutting any air at all. So, all right, so what I'll do first is I'm going to grab my line. And it's just one geometry line that you need to select for right there. And what I like to do right away is show my working area. So what's going on here is it's giving me a triangle of the actual stock or the cutting area that it's going to be going on there. So if I go ahead and turn my part sideways, everyone should see the red area. So it basically is going to square off our part in that sense of things. So we'll go ahead and grab a tool here. And let's grab this 10 mil. Levels, I'm not going to even touch my levels right now. And technology now. In the technology, we have how much do we want to take per step down. So 5 millimeters might be a little much, so I'm going to switch it over to 2 millimeters. I can tell it which direction do I want it to cut along. Do I want it to cut across or along? Let's go ahead and save and calculate so we get some toolpath here. So right now we're going along with the cut right here, but if we wanted to, we could go perpendicular to our line that we chose right there. Now the clear offset. So you can see right here, we're just doing a single line geometry, and we're doing 2 millimeter step down. And if I can get this zoomed in here, we're doing our tool path. So every 2 millimeters, we're coming down. Well, we still have the rest of the material over here that needs to be machined off. So we can come over and turn on our clear offset. And I would like to offset it over this direction. So it comes up to 66.65 millimeters. And I can do a step over of 4 millimeters. So what's basically going to happen is every time it takes a cut, it's going to move over that 4 millimeters. So let's kind of take a look and see what that looks like. It's going to look a little busy right now, but right here, we're doing our step down of 2 millimeters. And if we go to a top view, it's stepping over every 4 millimeters. So what we did is we took the geometry line over here, we offsetted it over that 4 millimeters, or I'm sorry, the 66.65 millimeters here, and it's coming over every 4 millimeters and taking a cut. Now, we can change our cutting direction, and we can do a zigzag. I'll clean up our toolpath a little bit here. So now, as we are looking on here, it is completely tapered to follow along with that surface, or with that angle there. So we're not, like I said, we're not cutting any air. If we wanted to eliminate even more air cuts, currently we have 6% of the tool is being, or the tool path is being extended by 6%, but I could kick that down to 10%. And now you can see it's really following the curvature of that angle. So we're not wasting any time or any air cut in there if we're kind of going for a high production run right here. Okay. So, and the one nice thing I do like when we switch it over to zigzag is it's not doing the sharp corners. So if we look at our toolpath here, and what I'll do is, let me just put this at 0 so it cleans it up a little bit. You can see in here, if we get a straight down view, we're doing nice looping toolpath in here. Where normally, by default, if you were doing a pocket operation or even a profile operation, we would have those sharp corners in there where you get that jerkiness in your machine. So you can definitely do that right inside the toolbox cycle now. So I'll go ahead and put our step down back at 2 millimeters here. And let's go ahead and plate this through now. Do solid verify. And like I said, we got our indexer rotated up here. And it is following, the tool path is expanding to follow the exact curvature or the exact angle to cut that face. So we're not, like I said, we're not wasting any time air cutting or anything like that. Okay. So there we go, we're up to size. So that is definitely a nice feature in there. The only way that we could do this without doing any additional air cuts with the same path is we would have to do a full-blown HSS and do our roughing in more and add additional steps going out as well as up, and then we would have to trim off all the extra tool path that's there. So like I said, this is very simple, easy, kind of like what we've been talking about with the toolbox cycles. All we have to do is grab one geometry line, grab our tool, come to our technology, and we are done. There's no having to mess around or doing any fine-tune modifications for that. So any questions on the flattened surface on a corner? Okay. So next one is an island. And we did talk about this last week with the multiple islands, but now we have an option for doing just one island. So right here, down at the bottom, or it's called simple boss, I'm sorry. So when I was showing you guys last week is simple multiple bosses, where now we can do a simple single boss. So it's telling us how to chain this part. So the first chain will be the outside, and the second chain will be our island that we would like to chain, or our boss. Now, since we are using the Smart Face technology, all I got to do is just click on that face, and it's automatically going to grab everything that I need in the proper order. Go ahead and grab our tools here. Levels. Let me make this fully so stiff here. Now in technology, we can do step downs. So as it's maybe if we're working with harder material, we can't take as quite of a heavy a cut, so we can put like a step down of 2 millimeters in there. We can also put a step over in there as well. So let's kind of see what our toolpath looks like here. Now, if we are running a softer material here, we can put our step down at 0, so it takes it all in one cut. So kind of clean up the path a little bit. It's a little bit easier for you guys to see here. But all it's basically doing is starting on the outside, working on those corners first, and then slowly working its way into the boss or the island there. As well, you guys can set it up so you can do one way or zigzag. If we want to turn on zigzag, kind of see what that looks like here. So you can definitely cleans up our tool path, but you got to make sure your cutter is a bit able to do climb and conventional cut. We can, if we have a high tolerance for our boss or our island, we can tell it that we would like to do a wall finish as well as doing a additional step down. So maybe if we have a really tight tolerance for our wall, we could put a 0.1 millimeter wall offset on there, and we could tell it to do a 1 millimeter step down using compensation. And so what it will do now is it gets everything all roughed out there, and then it's coming back and doing that nice pass going all the way around for us to get that really tight tolerance jelly bean in there. So
now, Kevin, can you do a quick pocketing operation? That way the people watching can see the differences between this toolpath generation and what they'd normally find with a pocket.
Do that. Great idea. Okay, so go back and we'll do a pocket operation here. Now for the pocket operation, I can grab that same geometry. And grab that same tool here. Levels. And we'll take it all in one cut like we did with the first one here. And we're going to be doing a contour style. And then if we go to the contour, we want to start from the outside and work our way in, as well as approach from outside is turned on. So that's good. So let's go ahead and save and calculate here. And if we go back, let's go ahead and go to our technology and our overlap. Let's see, if we're using a 10, it'd be 8 millimeter overlap. So that should be pretty comparable. Yep. And let's see, we'll also have to go in here, go to contour, and I thought I had the option to do a zigzag in here. Zigzag. So both of these operations are now doing the exact same thing in here. If we kind of go through them, I can click on it. So here is our toolbox cycle. So we can kind of see it starting over here and just doing a nice linear path, working its way over, and then it's following the contour lines of our jelly bean there, versus the contour or the pocket is doing the same thing there. But we're getting our sharp corners, so I would have to go in there and manually change our sharp corners over to fillet and go to smooth. And that smooths out our tool path a little bit there, but you have to, or if you guys notice that, I'm having to do a lot more work with the pocket operation versus using the toolbox cycle. So is that kind of where you're getting with, Greg?
Yeah, that toolbox cycle is a lot more streamlined, a lot less mouse clicks.
Absolutely. And I think especially on this one, I feel if we look at the retract moves, you can see we got quite a few retract moves there, versus with the toolbox cycle, we have a lot less retracts going on there. I shouldn't say a lot, but there are less retracts that are going on in there for you guys. So definitely kind of take that into consideration. And for those of you guys that haven't been with us through the toolbox cycles, part 1, 2, and 3, these are just, open up the toolbox cycle. These toolbox cycles are, like this particular one right here, is basically a pocket operation, but it's really simplifying things for you guys. So you can buzz through it really quickly and get what the tool path that you're looking for, versus having to go into a pocket operation and get all the stuff that we can't see in here checked and updated to get the path that we're looking for. So any questions on my jelly bean? Or maybe it's Tim's kidney bean. Okay.
These are all standard 2D standard operations.
Absolutely. Yep. So there's a lot in here. Like I said, I would say toolbox cycles, for everyone that's watching, is probably one of the most underutilized features that we have inside SolidCAM. So definitely there's a lot of great stuff in here to really simplify things. So now the next one is one that I run across quite often, and it is the spiral pocket. So we'll go over to our spiral pocket here and grab our geometry just by clicking on the face. Now, it's exactly what it says. It's going to do a spiral working from the inside, doing a spiral path, working its way to the outside. So if we want to get everything associative there. But the nice thing with the spiral is you guys have a full control over that spiral path. So I'm going to tell it to take it all in one cut here. I'm also telling it that I would like to do a helical entry into there. And right now, the max cutting that I'm going to be engaging my cutter is at 60 degrees, and the minimum I'm going to be engaging that cutter is 40 degrees. So this is a real nice smooth tool path, and you can see like we're starting in the center and just working our way to the outside right there, doing a nice corkscrew or spiral working its way out there. Now, maybe if you had a pre-drill hole, we can turn off that helical entry, and it will start right in the center. Like I said, just coming down and working, doing a nice corkscrew working its way around. If we wanted a little bit higher of an engagement angle, we could put 80 degrees and maybe 50 degrees. And now you can see that definitely increases our step over there. Now, if you guys are unsure of the cutting angle that you want to achieve, and maybe the tool vendor has specified that the step over versus cutting angle, we can tell it to do that as well. So right now we have a minimum step over. We'll just do 2 millimeters and 5 millimeters. And so it automatically adapts for that. So it's going to work in between those parameters right there. So the nice thing, it does have a minimum, so we're not burnishing our tool or wearing down our tool. So definitely a great feature in there. And you guys can set up a wall finish as well as a floor finish at that time too. So, all right, any questions on the spiral?
There's a question there regarding the toolbox cycle. Not sure I'm getting the whole question there. Hang on.
Let me look.
Oh.
So if you,
let me see here. Oh, so if your models, I missed the first one. Close. So if your model is close to one of the toolbox cycles, and you can merge them together to use them.
All right. So if you use SolidWorks model is close to one of these toolbox cycles, and then you merge them together, you use the toolbox cycle. Leroy, I'm a little confused on what you're asking there. Okay, we'll keep.
If it's the shape of it. So I think he's thinking here with this particular one, it's got to be a circle. The other, some of the other ones, I don't think it matters as far as the geometry shape.
Yeah. Well, let's. Okay. So, because we're doing so, let's do it right now. So what I'm going to do is do a sketch, and do this one. Okay. Exit sketch. Geometry. Got level still. Okay, so to answer your question, Leroy, you can kind of see it here itself. This spiral pocket is for exact circles, so we can't do a square box or anything like that.
That's a good question.
Yeah, definitely great guy. It's a good question when I don't know the answer.
And we just got the answer.
Yep. So
cool.
We'll go ahead and switch this back over to circle geometry. Now, technically, a circle is a bunch of straight lines in there, so I don't know of the tolerance of all that stuff, but this, what is it, a hexagon or octagon, or, I'm sorry, guys, I'm really bad at my shapes.
It's a hex.
Hexagon. I should know this. I had to teach my kid kindergarten for the last 2 months. But, all right, any other questions with the circle, the spiral pocket for a circle? Okay. All right. So now, the next one is one that I've never used before, but this is going to be more for the maybe the wood guys, or depending on the machine that you have. But the next one is going to be a saw blade. So we'll go ahead, and this is basically if you want to cut off a piece of material, or chop saw kind of way, but let me just kind of show you what it looks like here. So grab our geometry. So we want the saw blade to come in here and wipe through here, or cut through right there. And for this particular tool, I'm going to grab a saw. So we just got a saw blade here. Levels. So upper level here, lower level here. And technology. So kind of how it works is it will cut it right down to the full depth. But what you can do is you can tell it the first initial step down. Maybe you just want to take a light cut to so you're not getting any heavy burrs if you're cutting wood. Take that light cut across and then come back and do the full depth at that point. Or you can do step downs. But let's go ahead and save and calculate. And you can see right now we're extending 60% past. So let's kind of shorten that up a little bit. So now we go ahead and simulate this. We can see our saw blade coming in there. It takes that first 1 millimeter to get it so we don't, boy, I can't think tonight. You don't get the splinters popping up. And then the next pass will come in and take the full depth of cut. Now, like I said, I've never used this one, but I was doing a little bit playing around last night on this. And if we wanted to do this to all 4 sides and cut this part, what you'd have to do is create 4 different operations. So if I make a copy of this, and we'll change our geometry to here, it will not do all 4 sides. It's only set up to do one single chain only. So if you're looking to do all 4 sides, you'd have to make 4 different operations for this to work like what we're looking for there. So, and if I go in here to my geometry, and if I pick 4 individual lines, I'll get a warning that says that geometry is not suitable, can only contain 1 chain, and it has to be a straight chain. So we can't do a zigzag chain in there following that through.
So this would be a great candidate for the save and copy
Yep.
icon.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay, let's go ahead and delete that extra one out of there. And our next one is geared more towards the circles again, and it is going to be a angled cylinder. So for this particular one, what we need to do is we need to have the coordinate system in the center of that circle. For our geometry, we just need to click on the actual face itself. And I told you guys it has to be set to that, so I'm gonna grab my Mac here. No, it's gonna make me pick it manually here. Okay. Go ahead and grab our tool here. Levels. And technology. So I can do it, I can tell it by a max step down that I would like to take, or I can actually tell it a scallop that I would like to use. So right now I'm telling it that I would like a 0.1 millimeter scallop with a step over of 1.5 in there. And for this one, we can do a zigzag cut. And if we do save and calculate here, you can see that, let me get straight down view. It's the tool path is conforming right to that circle itself. So we're not cutting any air at this point. To try to do this in a pocket operation would not work, just because the way the, well, no, if we did this in a profile operation using the, angle option in there, it would just have straight lines going through, and we would be cutting air in there. So you can see that is completely straight over, following the curvature of that entire cut. And we could, just because I'd like to see what it looks like if we did a pocket operation, but I can't follow that surface going down, so that will not work. Scratch that, yeah, I can't even use the pocket operation for that one. On this particular one, the only way to go about and achieve this would be if I did an HSS operation, and I don't even think that would quite work out as well. So let's do, if you guys don't mind, let's go ahead and do an HSS operation and just see. Yeah, we can do constant Z. We would like to cut that surface. We'll grab that same tool. Levels, toolpath parameters. We can leave it at the 1 millimeter step over. And let's go to sorting. It's doing zigzag. Wait a minute here. Let's go to our link. Don't have to worry about this one. I want to do blend spline. Okay. So here is the initial geometry. So if we were to take this toolbox cycle and go to technology, and we did our step down at 30, would it give it to us? No. So I can't even just do, okay, let's go back to, yeah, 0.1. Let's see if I can add the roughing strategy to this HSS operation now. And I don't think this is going to work, so, but we'll definitely try it. So we can do depth cuts, and we had a step over of 1.5. So let's just try 10 cuts at 1.5. Okay. So now that's getting closer. Obviously, I need to keep this one up higher, so I need to tell it I need more cuts in there. So if we did 15. Okay, so now that last tool path on this side is now with it. And now if I come in here, I'm doing a lot of air cutting, but what we can do is turn on our stock definition to eliminate any of those air cuts. Let's see what she does here. Nope. Oh, I know why, because I already cut it off. Let's go back to this toolbox cycle here. We'll suppress that. Since it's based off of updated stock, it was already machined, so it's seeing that didn't even need to machine anything there. So you can see we have pretty close to the same tool path there. Right now, it's following the curvature of our round shape, but you can see how much work I had to put into that just to get that tool path to work properly. And it still looks like we have quite a few additional cuts there. Seeing there's like a lot of cutting going on in there, but like I said, a very simplified, easy one to do is with that toolbox cycle. The only kicker is you have to have that coordinate system in the center of that circle. So we'll go ahead and unsuppress this here and show that. So you can kind of see doing the same pattern, zigzag pattern. Like I said, very simple, easy to go through, and I didn't have to go through all those steps, as well as I didn't have to access any of my 3D functionality to get this cut. This was all done in 2D.
They're doing that with using the 2D pocketing engine?
This one's kind of a hybrid. So this one is a 2D pocket with the profile engine in there as well. And the only reason I say that is because with the profile, if you guys go to technology and advanced, we have the wall draft. And so they're incorporating that wall draft in there of the 45 degrees as well. But we don't have to tell it the 45 degrees. So this can be at any angle here. And it automatically populates this right here.
Cool.
And if we were to do this as a profile operation, like I said, we'd be cutting a lot of air coming out, because if we do a straight down view here, we'd be using this line as our geometry, and this line would carry all the way through. So all this additional area right here would just be cutting air. So hopefully that makes sense for everyone. Any questions on that one? All right. Oh, I've seen one come through. Why couldn't you not do that on your first lesson model? First lesson model. Well,
that one wasn't round. And that's a good question. What I was thinking as you were doing this, when you were setting that part up to do the cylindrical part, was that we were going to skew it at the angle like we did that first corner.
Oh, this. I'm sorry. Can you do that on the first lesson model? Or are you talking this one right here?
I think that's what he's talking about.
That's what I understood it as as well.
Okay. Well, then let me. Yes. Okay.
I think Tim's on the right track with the geometry selection, but maybe highlight the difference in coordinate system as well. because you got one coordinate system that is normal to the face that you're cutting,
Yep.
and
Yep.
another one that is on the flat of that cylinder, probably normal to the table, but not to the cut face.
Correct. And sorry, Tim, when I was switching back and forth, I didn't quite hear what you said about the geometry.
Nope. I think the one direction is this last tool path couldn't be used on the first one because it wasn't a circle.
Yes. Yes. Yep. And if I even open up this operation here, and I click on this, no, it's not what I want. No. Geometries. Where am I missing it here? Let me get back. Nope. I think it tells us it has to be circular types. Toolbox.
You were there, angle cylinder. You got it.
Let's see. Circular chain. So it has to be a circular chain. Can contain. Yeah, I mean, we can definitely try it here, but I think it's going to have to be a circle because it's that's the whole point of having that X, Y, Z in the center of that circle versus off to the side.
It almost seems like they're using that circular entity to be a working area.
Yeah, yep, like a boundary. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So
that's how they built that. So
yep.
Whereas, could you apply the toolpath you did in the lower left corner, the first one you did, on the cylinder one? Is there a restriction there that wouldn't work in that situation?
Let's try it. So we will go to our toolbox cycles.
It's the opposite of what Leroy was asking, but
yep.
it was kind of that's where I thought you were going, but the Z direction was going straight up. I'm like,
yep.
This is different.
So let's try. So I can only grab one. Oh, so if I grab this guy here, nope, not suitable. So, it's definitely not suitable when it.
Running with scissors.
Yep. Yeah, it completely bombed me out here.
Yeah, so it required the straight walls, the straight ends, compared to that complex geometry.
Yep. All right.
Just the way they built it.
But the good thing is we didn't lose any work. Bad thing is it crashed.
But we've got all them toolbox cycles already done.
Yeah. Now, as you guys run through this is something that you may want to use as a reference to come back to. And the nice thing about this is you guys have these parts already installed on your computer. If you, and I'll show you the path once it gets opened up here. But if you go to, come on, Tools, SolidCAM, Open. And if it's under the C, Users, Public Documents, SolidCAM, whatever version you're using, Users, Getting Started Examples, SolidWorks, and scroll down to the bottom and you'll see where it says Toolbox Cycles there. And that will have all of the different toolbox cycles with examples for you too. So if you ever get snagged up on that, you can definitely come there and check it out too. Let's get back to our last path here. And our last one is geared for thin wall. So let's go ahead and do our toolbox cycle. And switch this back. And we are going to be doing our thin wall machining. So what it's looking for is pick the two thin walls. So grab that, grab that. Levels and technology. So now you have the option to do, this is like I said, specifically set up for thin wall, but we can alternate the strategy. So as it sits right now, I mean, we're taking it all in one cut, but if I were to do a step down of 1 millimeter here, what it will be doing is starting at the top and working its way down, alternating sides. So it's going to be going back and forth, taking that thin wall. So we're not taking all heavy cut over here, getting all the heat on this side, and then coming over here and putting all the heat on this side. So we're going back and forth, back and forth. Now on this one, we can do a clear offset as well. So now there's a lot of path there, but let's do 5 millimeters. So you can see we're starting over here, taking its cut, bouncing over here, taking its cut. But if you don't like, if you don't like that, we can do supporting steps here, and this will kind of set it up as if you're trying to do this, geometry isn't really set up for it, but if you wanted to do like a step out going down right there, so you could do that as well. But for this particular one, we want to alternate it so we're not focusing any heat on there. And if we go ahead and play this through, come over here. And now you can see that it was kind of doing a lot of bouncing back and forth, getting in there. The only thing I've seen is our clear offset wasn't in there anymore, because we switched over from alternating to the supporting. But now, oops, don't need the G code, simulate that. And as you can see, let me play this through here again. Right here, you can see it's still leaving that material down on the bottom and slowly taking those cuts out as well. So this is your ideal thin wall feature that works really good for taking those light cuts going back and forth. Now to do this, this can be done in profile operation, but you would have to have a lot of operations to achieve what we're doing here. So for it to get to bounce back and forth along with the levels, there'd be a lot of work and a lot of different operations. And we probably have to, yeah, we would have to break this up into multiple operations so it goes back and forth instead of doing all one side and then going over to the other side. So like we've been kind of saying all along, a very simple operation, or maybe complex operation, but simplified very easily for you guys. So, any questions? I mean, Leroy can't be the only one having any questions. All right, I don't see anything coming through. Now, I think this is the last of what we have actually on the schedule right now. So let me go to webinars, KevCAM. Yep, so this is the last one that we have to register for. What I am thinking, or what I'm going to try to do for everyone, and I would like to have your feedback if everyone can write in. The next class, I would like to have the actual owner of the company come in and give you guys a overview of SolidCAM, kind of how SolidCAM started, where, you know, the family-owned business, all about that. Would that be something of interest for everyone, or do you guys not care about the history or hearing from the owner himself? He probably will add some 2021 sneak peek stuff in there too, but just want your guys' feedback on that. If you guys would like to have the owner of the company in here. Okay.
Yeah, that's I agree. And actually, Leroy had a question there back to the previous cylinder part, looking to see the toolpath run on that.
Oh, so the cylinder, this guy.
Yep, he said second to the last, so that's
Yep.
I think that's the one he's referring to.
So let's go ahead and open this up. In simulation?
I think so. That's what I'm interpreting his question to be.
Holy moly, I must have a really fine step down. So what it's doing here is keeping it contained in that area. So on something like this, we probably want to do obviously more of an extension on there. Go ahead and play this through real quick. But we should be right up to size. Yep, so we are right up to size on that face there. So to accommodate that, what we could do is do our extensions, you know, maybe 100% past. And since we are, so this one would be if we had circular stock. The stock that we're showing on there right now is not circular stock, it is square stock. So this may not be the best to show in Solid Verify, but
I think you got your scallops set to 0.1 millimeter.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. So now we can kind of see that it's going farther past over here with that extension overlap. Now, it does cut it right down to size right here, so we could come in here and just buzz off this last island right here. And a simple way of kind of going about that would be probably a profile operation, just doing a zigzag going all the way through there. So.
Or the Simple Boss Toolbox cycle.
Or the Simple Boss Toolbox cycle. Bam.
There you go.
Featured
Nice.
earlier in the class.
Boom. Mic drop.
Dang it, you busted me, Greg.
That just means I'm learning.
Yep. Yeah, so to go, let's see. So in that particular one, we would want to come in, add a toolbox, and we will do a simple grab here. I knew this. I was just making sure Greg was paying attention.
Yeah, it's not every day I get the drop on Tim either.
My mind was going. I thought I was thinking the same thing. Greg came up with it quicker than I did.
All right, so now when we come in here, come on, simulate. You can see it is set up.
There you go.
And
Sweet.
if we're looking for that better tolerance, we can definitely do something. Probably have to do like a 0.2 in there. I think Leroy was just testing us because he knew that was going to be there. There we go. And we are right up to size as well. So great point out there, Leroy. Making sure we're all on our toes. All right, any other questions before we wrap it up for tonight? Now, I did only hear back from Leroy, James, Greg, Carlos, any of the other guys that are in here. Is that something that you guys would be interested in hearing from the owner of the company? I do have to wake him up at 3 o'clock in the morning his time, so but I don't think you'd be too mad if we got him in here. But, all right, I don't see any. All right, thanks, James. All right, So with that being said, I'll see if I can get that set up for everyone. But in the meantime, if you guys do have questions, definitely feel free to reach out to me or give us a call on the support line. And with that being said, I will let everyone run for tonight. And hopefully.
Kevin, real quick before you kind of shut her down, I just want to say thanks again. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, these toolbox cycles is something that's, it's in the software, most overlooked. Pulling these videos together and covering these topics is very valuable to the customers to, find this hidden functionality that people just don't know about, but it's very, very user friendly and can save people a lot of time.
Yep.
So nice job. Keep it up.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, Tim. And just want to thank everyone for joining the night tonight. And hopefully we will, well, I know we'll talk to you guys next week, but depending on what I hear back from Emil, if he can hop in there or not, but we'll have something for you guys next week. So definitely keep an eye on the website for that to be updated for the next night class. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your night, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Thanks all. Good night.
Have a good evening.